And welcome back to the third episode of the DJMC Sports Talk podcast. In today's podcast, we are going to recap a little bit of the NBA action that occurred last night. We'll talk about today's games and some spreads, review the picks that the four of us had last night. After our picks, we're going to talk about some NFL award predictions, MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defense Player of the Year, Rookies of the Year, Coach of the Year, and Comeback Player of the Year. No Matt today, so we will not have a college basketball segment for his takeaways of last night's games. And then we're also going to be taking a look at Matt sent me over a couple college basketball picks for you guys to look at tonight. So with that being said, let's get right back into the NBA action here. Last night I took the Raptors to cover by 5.5 against Washington, and the Raptors routed the Wizards, beat them 106-82. It's the Raptors' fifth straight win. Carson's pick was Nets at plus 2.5 versus the Hornets. Keon Johnson scored 18, and the Nets beat the Hornets 104-83. Matt
Big
took
time.
the Knicks by 2.5 against Denver at home. Brunson had 30 points and 15 assists, which led to the Knicks defeating the Nuggets 122-112. And Jack was the only guy that unfortunately did not get his pick right. He had Mavs to cover by 1.5. Mavericks were up by 8 with 58 seconds to go, and caught some bad luck there towards the end. Mavericks did hold on to win. 4 players scored 20 plus points in their 137-136 victory in New Orleans. A couple other games that occurred last night. Pacers beat the Pistons 133-119. Celtics prevail past the Bulls 122-100. Cavs took care of business in Miami, won 126-106. 76ers win their third straight, 117-104 over the Kings. Clippers Spurs got a little chippy last night. Clippers come out on top 128-116. Warriors win at home versus the Thunder 116-109. And the Timberwolves close off the night with a 121-113 victory. So, do you guys have any takeaways from last night's games? I would say our picks were great. We had some very good reads there. Did you guys happen to see or watch or check in at anything during the good slate we had yesterday?
Oh, you pretty
No,
much got it
but
all.
yeah. Nets took
Alrighty.
care of business. Keon Johnson led the way with 18 points, like you said. It was a good game. I was locked in, so got
Yes, it
that pick
was.
right.
They did play very well. So tonight we have 5 games. We got Lakers traveling to Washington for their third game of their 7-day road trip. Lakers are 6.5-point favorites in that one. The Hawks will take on Cleveland in Cleveland, where Cleveland will be a 9.5-point favorite. The Wolves at the Jazz. Minnesota is favored by 7.5 in that one. Rockets at Grizzlies. The number 2 seed versus the number 3 seed in the Western Conference. That's going to be a really good game tonight. Memphis is favored by 5.5. And the Orlando Magic will travel to Portland to play the Trailblazers, where Orlando is favored by 5.5. So, when you guys are looking at these games for tonight, is there a game that sticks out to you where you could possibly see like a spread or a money line or anything like that?
Yeah.
Talk to
So
you,
I picked the
Jack.
Trailblazers. Their spread is at 115. Both pretty good teams, but I think the Trailblazers cover that spread.
Okay. And Carson?
Yeah, my pick is Minnesota to win by 6 points tonight. I think they'll take care of business. Another thought is it's going to be good to see how the Rockets match up against the Grizzlies. So,
Yeah, and what you said there with the Rockets and the Grizzlies, that brings me on to my point. The Rockets are coming off a 5-game win streak, traveling to
they're hot.
Memphis, traveling to Memphis, um, and Memphis is favored by 5.5 in that game. But I think the Rockets do come out on top and continue on. So I
Yeah.
have Rockets money line tonight at plus 165. So that's a great pick to look at there. Um,
It'll also be pretty interesting how the Lakers play tonight without Anthony Davis.
Yeah,
That's
and I
another
think
thought.
this I think this is their second game this year without AD. I think his first game he was going to
Yep,
take
second.
a rest. So, but this one he's got a little abdominal strain. It's going to sideline him for a little bit. So Well,
See if
that's
anyone can
about
step up.
yeah, correct. It's going to give more minutes for Vanderbilt and Hachimura. See how those guys step up. And to be honest with you, kind of like what we talked about a couple of days ago with them, needing another big. Like now, this is going to actually solidify, you know, what these bench
Yep.
guys can do. So,
Yep.
we'll get a good gist of, where the Lakers stand at on that. So, alrighty, well, let's push the NBA aside here and let's talk a little bit of NFL. So the NFL awards are going to be coming up here very soon. Um, we got the MVP, the offensive and defensive player of the years, the rookies of the year, defense and offense as well. The comeback player of the year and the coach of the year. So I'll start us off here. For my MVP, I have Lamar Jackson. Jack, who do you have?
Yeah, I have Lamar Jackson. Him and Derrick
Okay,
Henry in the backfield is just insane.
okay, and Carson.
I'm gonna go on the Josh Allen train for this one.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll just kind of talk a little bit about Lamar Jackson here. You can't go wrong with Lamar or Josh Allen, and if it's not Lamar or Josh Allen that wins MVP, it should just be straight criminal, just straight criminal. I took Lamar over Josh Allen because you know a couple of reasons. One is Lamar had 400 more passing yards than Josh Allen did. And another thing he did do was he threw the ball a lot better than um, Josh did. He had 13 more touchdowns through the air than Josh. Josh did have way more rushing touchdowns, but when you get a 6'5", 230-pound quarterback and you're on the 1 yard line, yeah, of course, you're gonna run the ball up the middle with your quarterback. Where Baltimore's a little different. They got a 6'5", 250-pound running back that takes about 3 or 4 guys to take him down. So um, Lamar also threw 4 less interceptions than Josh Allen did, and Lamar's QBR was 119 to Josh's 101.4. So, I fully believe that Lamar was a better player overall throughout the whole season than Josh Allen was. But I mean, you really can't go wrong with either one of them. But if I, had a vote, I would vote for Lamar. Jackie, I know you mentioned Lamar. Did you have anything, that you would like to add to that or anything like that?
Yeah, when you have a QB that runs 20 plus miles an hour, along with a running back in the backfield that also runs 20 plus and is huge, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. And he can pass. He's versatile. He's quick in the pocket. He can get out of almost any situation. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer for me.
Okay. And Carson, I know you mentioned you're on the Josh Allen train. You know, explain to the people, why do you think Allen is more deserving of the MVP than Lamar?
Yeah, stats wise, I mean definitely Lamar Jackson. But I think Josh Allen just honestly played better this year. He carried his team through a lot more. I think he obviously has a lot less weapons and did just not, or if, I mean, they had a better season than the Ravens. So, I mean, I think Josh Allen is a better player and did pretty good with the team he had around him this year and made something out of not completely nothing, but I mean, after losing all those defensive pieces and taking them where they went this year, I think that was a big surprise to everyone, honestly.
Yeah, and that he lost his primary number one target last year, and Stephon Diggs.
Yep.
Uh, Another reason too. But some guys for the Bills did take a step up. And Khalil Shakir. They
Yep.
traded for Amari Cooper at the deadline. Dalton Kincaid kind of had a little bit of a rough year too for him. James Cook was phenomenal in the backfield for them. The one. I would say not the only reason why I would see Josh Allen possibly winning this over Lamar, because like you said, Lamar was statistically better. But, if you look at the squad Lamar had compared to that Buffalo offensive roster, there's
Yeah.
a good there's a good differential there. I would say, Josh did knock Lamar out of the playoffs. That's the one strong case that Allen does
Yeah.
have over Lamar. But however, um, I will tell you the Bills did lose to the Ravens by 30 plus earlier in the regular season. So yes, he did knock him out of the playoffs, but yes,
It's
the
regular
Ravens
season
did give
MVP.
him the business. Um, so, all right, well, that's going to move us on to our second award here, and the Offensive Player of the Year. Now, this could be one of two guys. In my opinion, I personally think Saquon Barkley is you know deserve this award. He's statistically just insane this year as a running back. Jack, who did you have for your offensive player of the year?
Yeah, I had Jamar Chase. I mean, he's first in the league with receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns. I mean, it's insane. Saquon
Yeah,
Barkley had a great year. He almost beat Dickerson's regular season yards, but Jamar Chase really turned it up this year when he's
yeah,
playing
he
for the
did.
Bengals.
And I think he's the first receiver since Cooper Kupp's season to win the Triple Crown in receiving, which is, a very hard thing to do in a league full of, great wide receivers. So, Carson, who did you have for your offensive player of the
I
year?
agree with you, Dawson. I got Saquon as
Okay.
my offensive.
Yeah. Um, so, a little bit why I chose Saquon over Jamar is this whole fact that, like Jack said, um, 2005 rushing yards that's unbelievable. He had 15 total touchdowns. He had 13 on the ground. And another stat that popped out to me for Saquon was the fact that he averaged 5.8 yards per rush. You're talking a first and 10 situation. You're giving the guy the ball, and you're looking at second, four. That gives you options to then either why not run it again, run a play action off of that, or what Philadelphia has been doing as of recent is running that read option with Barkley and Jalen Hurts, which is just disgusting. So, Jack, you want to tell me a little bit why you chose Jamar over Saquon? I know you mentioned he led the league in all receiving stats. Do you have anything else um, that you would like to add to that or not?
I don't know. He really shined on his team. When you look at the Bengals, you see Joe Burrow and then you see Jamar Chase.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean, they have a,
go
they have
ahead.
a bottom side defense, but Jamar Chase really shined when it came to offensively.
Yeah, correct. And the Bengals had a very rough start to their season. Where it they had to catch a flame to have even a shot to make the playoffs in the back half of the year. And that's when Chase and Burrow took that step up. Was when they knew that they needed to lock it in, focus it up, and those two they always could just always found each other. Somehow,
Hmm.
some way. Jamar would always get open. Burrow would put it right in his breadbasket. So. Carson, I know you said Saquon as well. Sure you agree with some of the statements that I said. Do you have
Yeah,
anything
totally.
else, that you would
No,
like
I
to add
I
or not?
I was gonna say that 5.8 number. That's huge, especially when you have guys out there like AJ Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. I mean, you can do anything on second, four, and I mean, if you don't do anything, then you just hand it right back to him. I mean, that's
Yeah.
crazy. 2,000 yard season. I mean, it's hard not to give it to him.
Yeah, and the run that Saquon was having, you can't say it was going to happen, but if he did play that last week, you know, he could have gotten that Dickerson record for sure. All right, so we're gonna
Those
move down the list. Oh, go ahead. You have something?
those offensive linemen are very good as well. You
Oh
need,
yeah,
yeah,
for sure, 100%. The
that
Eagles,
needs
I think they had
one of
the
the,
greatest, or when you graded them, they were graded for the second best offensive line in all of football behind the Detroit
yeah.
Lions. So
It's been crazy to watch him in the playoffs, how big of holes they create for him.
yeah,
Didn't
and
really watch much Eagles football throughout the year, but in the playoffs, it's cool to see that. So,
yeah, and even not even like the holes, but just the push that they get up front is immaculate. I mean, they had 7 rushing touchdowns last week against the Commanders, which is just I think that tied the most for an NFL playoff game all time, which that's pretty remarkable. But we're gonna keep moving down the list here. Defensive Player of the Year. I took cornerback from the Denver Broncos, Pat Surtain. Jack, who did you have?
I had Myles Garrett with the Browns.
Okay, and Carson.
I had Patrick Surtain as well.
Okay, so you know, I think you can't go wrong with Myles Garrett. You can't go wrong with Patrick Surtain. You can't go wrong with Trey Henderson. I think it's going to be a
Yeah.
real toss up.
Yep.
Um, I think I chose Patrick Surtain because a couple of reasons. He had 4 picks. He had a return touchdown, and 11 pass deflections, and his stats they're not like eye popping. They're not like, man, he had double digit picks. He had 3 touchdowns. You know, but the thing is Patrick Surtain would guard the number one every week, and he would hold that number one to under, at most 60 yards, which, is just remarkable, and that really helped Denver a lot, in their back half of the year, when they went on that little run in the middle of the year as well. So, yeah, just having that ability to lock up that offensive team's number one receiver with Patrick Surtain, I think that's just so valuable. So that's why I have Patrick Surtain winning Defensive Player of the Year. Jack, you want to tell me a little bit on why you have Myles Garrett as your Defensive Player of the Year?
Yeah, I had to pay some homage to the boys in the trenches. I mean, he had 14 sacks, which is tied for second in the league. I mean, as a defensive end, you look at T.J. Watt. He had an okay year, and he always does good. But Myles Garrett, tied for sacks are huge when it comes to football. Sacks win you games at some points. That's why I chose Miles.
Yeah, and you know, defensive players you can't really go off their stats, because the impact that Myles Garrett brings to offensive coordinators, offensive line coaches, you got to double team them sometimes, which then leaves one on one with somebody else.
Hmm.
Those things they don't get looked at as much. But yeah, Myles Garrett's a complete stud. I did see a tweet the other day. I've known that Myles Garrett's name has been kind of floating around for a trade rumor. But the Browns GM did come out and say that, Myles Garrett's here to stay. So um, that's good for Cleveland fans. Um, Carson, I know you agreed with me with Patrick
Yeah.
Surtain. Is there anything, that you'd like to add on to, what I
I mean,
said or something else?
just like that impact thing you said. I mean, that's probably one of the not if bigger reasons that the Broncos won as many games as they did this year. I mean, when you have Patrick Surtain and that defense on the other side of the ball with rookie Bo Nix, who struggled at the beginning of the year. I mean, that definitely picked him up when he started realizing that he can win games and just play a little bit slower on offense. So that was
Yeah,
definitely a big deal when it came to the Broncos winning games and about getting into the playoffs.
yeah, 100%. He was a monster, and like we said earlier, he just took away that option, that number one option for any offensive teams. So offensive rookie of the year, I think this will be a clean wipe. Um,
Hmm.
I think Jaden Daniels is going to be unanimous offensive rookie of the year. Um, yes, Brock Bowers had a great year. He had a phenomenal year. I've talked about Brock Bowers before on the show, and I just Jaden Daniels leads a Commanders team to the conference championship, plays immaculate football. Guy threw for 3,598 passing yards. His touchdown to interception ratio was 25 to 9. QBR was 100.1. He had 891 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns on the ground. So, I there's no disrespect to Brock Bowers. He had a great year. One of, the top tight end rookie years, that I've seen in a while. But you just if unanimously Jaden Daniels is not the MVP, there's something wrong. And I think we all can agree with that. Um, Jack, did you have Jaden Daniels as your offensive rookie of the year?
Yeah, it's a landslide.
Yeah, and Carson, I'd imagine you
I
did
did
too.
as well.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
I think, everybody should, vote Jaden Daniels. I don't think it's close. Like Jack said, a landslide. Is there anything you guys wanted to add, or should we move on to defensive rookie of the year?
We're good to move on.
Move on. Alrighty. So defense rookie of the year, I have Jared Verse of the LA Rams. You know, he had a very impactful season. When we were talking earlier about Myles Garrett, he kind of did the same things. Now his stats were not as nearly as good as Myles Garrett's, but um, just the interior force he was for offensive linemen and offensive lineman coaches to scheme against was tough for him. Jack, who'd you have?
I had Cooper DeJean. Seeing
Okay.
him rookie coming in on the Eagles team. I mean, when they were playing the Ravens, I watched Cooper DeJean pick up Derrick Henry and throw him on the ground. A 6 foot 198 rookie threw a 6'2", 250 pound, second best running back in the league on the ground. It's absolutely insane. I think he's a great cornerback. It was a great pick.
And then Carson, who'd you have as your defense rookie of the year?
I think it'd be super cool if Cooper DeJean got it, but I think Jared Verse is going to take it home at the end of the day. So, yep.
Yeah, and I don't know, in that wild card game, when the Rams played host of Minnesota and Arizona, because of the fires, he was an absolute wrecking ball, just an
Yeah,
absolute wrecking ball in that game. He caused so much havoc. I think the Rams had, I want to say, 7 or 8 sacks in that game. Just it was a complete Sam Darnold fall. They just absolutely dominated that game straight from the kickoff. A little bit about versus stats. He had 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 11 tackles for loss. So like I said, it wasn't a great, outstanding looking at his stats. You're like, this guy, that's a solid year in the NFL. But just that interior force he brought and the matchup nightmare he was for offensive linemen. Now, let's move on to the comeback player of the year. I think this one could be, you know, two guys, but I chose Joe Burrow. Jack, who did you choose?
I ended up choosing DeMar Hamlin.
Okay, and Carson.
I got Sam Darnold.
See, there we go. All right, I like this. So we got
No.
three different opinions here. My two was between Burrow and Darnold. I said Burrow just because, I mean, right when you hear this guy's stats, you're gonna know why. Guy threw for 4,918 yards, 43 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and his QBR was 108 and a half. You know, we're talking about a guy that has no offensive line, really at all outside of Orlando Brown. Um, the guy got hit the second most in the NFL, outside of Caleb Williams. Um, and just the things that Joe Burrow does is it's insane. I was talking to Jack earlier, and we were kind of having a discussion about this, and I said Joe Burrow is the number one passing quarterback in the NFL. Passing, not overall, passing quarterback. I would take Joe Burrow's arm over anybody else's arm in the NFL. His accuracy. Um, Now, my only thing is about the comeback player of the year is, yes, Burrow had a great year, but Burrow's known for being great. So I don't know if they're going to lean and say, well, Joe Burrow is really good. Do we really give him comeback player of the year?
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the only reason, in my opinion, that he doesn't win this is because, he's a stud. So, Jack, you said Damar Hamlin from the Buffalo Bills. You want to tell us why you believe Damar Hamlin will win Comeback Player of the Year?
Yeah, so originally I was on Joe Burrow, but then when you were talking about how we were talking earlier, it kind of put something in my head. Like, we knew Joe Burrow was a good player. It's kind of weird for him to be on a comeback player of the year. Yeah, their team didn't do great, and it's great to see him do great, specifically in the passing. But DeMar Hamlin, I don't know, after the year he had in 2023 and the thing, he comes back this year and it's not like he had a landslide fall. He's terrible now. He came back ready to fight. He's locked in.
Yeah, it was a great year for Damar Hamlin. The thing I love about that guy too is he he's a competitor and he's going to compete till the final whistle every time. I don't know if you guys watched the Bills Chiefs game. Um, that tackle he had on Mahomes when Mahomes got in the end zone. That's just the dog of
Yeah.
a competitor that the guy has. So, and then Carson, you said Sam Darnold. Um, Tell me and tell us a little bit why you think Sam Darnold is deserving of the comeback player of the year.
Yeah, I like the DeMar Hamlin pick. That's good. I mean, he started on that defense and made a big impact and obviously helped them get to where they went. I like the Joe Burrow pick as well. I just think that, sometimes winning is a lot more respectable than anything. I think Sam Darnold went into Minnesota this year, and I'm going to be honest, not many people thought that they were going to do what they did. I mean, yes, he has weapons, and yes, he has no line. I mean, kind of, but you know what I mean. He has weapons to throw to, and no one expected them to have the 14 wins they did. I'm pretty sure, and not that the playoffs weren't what they expected, but regular season.
Yeah, and Sam Darnold was terrific. His last 2 weeks though was kind of like the old Sam Darnold. That
Yeah.
everybody remembered. So, but that leads us right into Coach of the Year, and my Coach of the Year is Kevin O'Connell from the Minnesota Vikings. A little bit kind of piggyback off what you said, Carson. Sam Darnold played his greatest football since his USC days. You know, and I think Kevin O'Connell. Yeah, they didn't win the division. They didn't win a playoff game. They got Peter rolled.
Yep.
It is what it is, right? Kevin O'Connell led this very unknown Minnesota Vikings team to a game away from having the best record in the NFC, from winning the NFC during the regular season. You know, he completely turned around Sam Darnold's career. You know, they drafted McCarthy, thinking he's their franchise guy. He's going to be a stud, rookie of the year candidate. He goes down, and Kevin O'Connell, he could have went right to trading for somebody. He could have went right to the free agency and picked up a guy. So just the trust that he had in Darnold, and Darnold fit that system really well.
Yeah.
So I think even without winning a division or winning a playoff game, what Kevin O'Connell did for the Minnesota Vikings this year, I think he's a well deserving of Coach of the Year. Jack, who'd you have for your Coach of the Year?
I had Dan Quinn. I mean, you look at the Commanders, they haven't done much in years. Rookie QB comes in, absolutely lights out. I mean, Dan Quinn had something to do with all that. Scary Terry, Diami Brown. They had a great year overall. I think Dan Quinn takes us away.
Yeah, that Dan Quinn was my number two. I really thought that he played a very significant role in Jaden Daniels' success. And watching the Commanders the last couple of weeks of the year, you know, just the trust that he had in Jaden Daniels. I mean, I want to say they went for it on fourth down, like what, 6 times against the Buccaneers. They went for it at
Yeah.
least 4 times against the Lions. And the first drive against the Philadelphia Eagles in the conference championship, they go for it on 4th and 5 from the 50, the first drive of the game. So just the trust that he has, and he built in that trust with Jaden Daniels, which I think Dan Quinn is also deserving of this award as well. Carson, who is your Coach of the Year?
I have Dan Quinn as well. Last year they went 4-13, and then to turn it around in one year. I mean, a lot of people can say it's strictly on Jane Daniels, but I mean, coaching has to take a part in that as well. I mean, just like you said, they walked into Ford Field and no one thought they were going to do that. The way they did, they smothered them at Ford Field. Um, I mean, it's not a very good roster. I mean, yeah, you got Terry McLaurin out there and De'Ami Brown stepped up big time, but I mean, it's not anything to wow your eyes about, and no one thought they were gonna get to where they did. So, and they played not a great game, but they still put up a fight against the Eagles. So, I mean, they had a pretty good year.
Yeah, and kind of like what you said, with the eye popping, superstars on the Commanders. They don't really have that guy, outside of Terry McLaurin. But what Dan Quinn did when he got the job in Washington was he went out and he got a lot of veteran guys. He brought in Austin Eckler, who was an absolute stud for the Chargers a couple years ago.
Yeah,
He went out, brought in Zach Ertz for be another target for Jaden Daniels, which Zach Ertz had one of his best years since leaving Philadelphia. And, defensively as well. Dan Quinn went out and got Bobby Wagner, who led the league in tackles for the Seahawks 4 years in a row. So you know just him going out there and trusting these older guys and trusting his rookie to go out there and play, just playing with a ton of confidence 24/7. I could see a case and why Dan Quinn could win the um, Coach of the Year. You guys got anything else, NFL related you'd like to add? If not, we're gonna move on to our last segment of the show for today.
I don't
Nothing from
got
me.
much. Yep.
Nope. Alrighty. So we're gonna move on to the last segment of the show, and unfortunately, you know, Matt Baltz is not with us today, so he will not be giving you his picks, but I will be giving you Mr. College Basketball himself his picks. Matt went 1-2 yesterday, caught some bad luck. Um, Mississippi State couldn't find the basket the last 5 minutes of the game, but Maryland prevailed. So Alrighty, Matt's 2 picks for tonight. He has the Fighting Illini at Nebraska. He's taking the Illinois money line in that one. And then his final pick is a little bit safer. He's got a little two-leg tonight. He is taking Memphis's money line against the good old Tulane Green Wave. So, on the road at Tulane, I think that'll be a little tougher game than people expect it will be. But Matt believes in the Tigers to prevail, as they've been playing some great basketball of late. So, well, do you guys got anything you'd like to add? Anything sports related? Basketball, baseball, football, anything else?
I think you can chat about the Max Scherzer a little
Oh
bit.
yeah, that is
Move.
correct. Yeah. So right before we started today,
Couldn't get Juan
Max.
Soto, so
Yes, they didn't get Soto and they didn't get
they got
Roki
to move
Sasaki,
on.
which they believed. The Blue Jays they've been in every talk, every year about getting a top guy all the time, and they always finish second. They always get the silver medal. They did go out and get another starting pitcher. They signed Max Scherzer to a 1 year, $15.5 million deal. He will definitely help that rotation that they have up there in Toronto. He'll join alongside Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios, Alek Manoah, and Scherzer. So yeah, it'll be an interesting year. I know the Blue Jays went out and got Santander, switch hitter from the Orioles, which another 35 home run guy there to add to their lineup. So it'll be an interesting year. The AL East is going to be pretty loaded this year, so it'll be a
I'm
it'll be
looking.
a, it'll
I'm
be a good ride.
looking. I'm looking right here, and Max Scherzer didn't look like he did too hot last year, so we'll see
No,
what he does.
yeah, he did have a
Almost a
little.
4 ERA. You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
he had a little bit of a rough stretch, and he's getting starting to get to his dog days, but the veteran presence, you sign a guy like that, and you could run away with something real quick, kind of like what the Cubs
yep,
did in 2016 with John Lester. Lester came in, just you know that morale of the team went up. He coached up
yep,
some guys, and which ultimately led to a Cubs World Series in 2016 that ended a pretty long drought. So.
yeah.
But yeah, I thank you for adding that. I was going to mention that too. Um, but you guys got anything else or
I got nothing.
nothing?
I think we're
Alrighty,
good.
we are good. So be looking out for maybe a podcast either tomorrow, if not tomorrow, the next day. We try to do these as much as we can, but um, we enjoy doing them. So um, I will see you guys in the next podcast, which will be either out tomorrow or the following day after that. So, all right, thanks for listening, guys. Peace.
Yes, sir. Thank you.